Hey everybody, it's Becky with A Better Way to Homeschool, and I have such a treat for you today. I'm so excited about this guest speaker that we have because now I've been homeschooling 20 years, but one of the things that has caught me off guard quite a few times are these extended periods of unwellness. Whether I spent my last 4 pregnancies were very difficult, where I was bedridden or couldn't walk. I've had kids that have had surgeries with extended recovery periods. I myself have had 1, 2, 3, 4 surgeries in that period of time. So what do you do when life knocks your feet out from underneath you? Well, that is what my friend Heather is here to talk to us about today. Today, we're focusing on homeschooling when you're dealing with chronic illness. So before we get into it, I wanted to introduce everybody to Heather. This is Heather from Fearless Faithful Mom. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So welcome. Everybody, I met Heather in a blogging group. I've lost track because I'm in lots of blogging groups. However, when I was looking for people to talk to us about different topics, this one topic, I really wanted somebody that could come and talk to us and encourage us from that, having walked through chronic illness and come out the other side. So I was super excited just talking to Heather and finding out her story. And I am thrilled knowing the types of things that she's going to be sharing with us today. So Heather, I would love for you to share, first of all, a little bit about yourself, and then where this heart from encouraging moms from that chronic illness stage in life comes from.
Hi, so I'm Heather, and I own Fearless Faithful Mom, and I write about parenting and homeschooling and cooking and living with food allergies, especially like dealing with multiple food allergies. I have 5 kids. They're all 10 and under, so life is still kind of in that crazy season of my 9 and 3. And
Right.
It's a little loud. I had a friend over today, and she has 2 kids, and she's like, "Is it always kind of crazy like this?" And I'm like, "Kind of is." Well, you have a lot of kids, so you know how that is. So I started off homeschooling when my daughter was going to do kindergarten, and it was going to be short term. It was just going to be to get her through kindergarten because she needed to start early. And all of a sudden, God kind of, well, actually not short term. I'd like you to do it permanently. And I resisted, and I fought, and I said no repeatedly. And then I said yes. And it was the most amazing thing that ever happened. And then life happened. You know how you said when life kind of knocks you off your feet? That's pretty much described. And so I had this, I started dealing with, I had a bunch of babies while we were homeschooling. And like you said, that kind of throws things off. It throws off your game a little bit. And then I these health problems, and nobody could figure out what it was. And everybody kept saying, well, I'm sure you're just stressed out from having a lot of kids. And I kept thinking, I don't think that's it. But I got sicker and sicker. And all of a sudden, homeschooling just, I didn't know if I could do it anymore. I didn't know if I could do anything as a mom anymore because my health just didn't seem to permit it. And I thought, am I going to have to put my kids in public school? Because I pictured this going. I had all of these, lofty ideals of what homeschooling was going to be like. And it was going to be field trips and, elaborate projects and amazing things. And, my kids were going to be like learning all of these really cool things. And we were going to be those amazing homeschoolers who, whose kids are speaking like 5 languages and all that.
Oh, of course.
And I couldn't do that. It couldn't happen. And I thought, if it can't happen this way, should it happen at all? And I had to learn to adjust my thinking and realize that I had to learn to sort of roll with the punches and make homeschooling work for us instead of being a slave to our homeschool.
Yes. And when we talked on the phone yesterday, you had said this one thing that stuck with me, and you had said that it had kind of come to a head where what you pictured homeschooling would be like in your mind collided with the reality. And although although you're sharing from this standpoint of chronic illness, and I want to tell everybody that in the descriptions, there's a printable with easy resources for you to grab, because Heather's got some great resources for us, which we'll talk about later, but just in case you have to jump away. But when reality meets those expectations and implodes, it's not always health. Sometimes it's financial, or, a flood or a fire, things, it with that. So
that's what you pictured.
Right. So for anybody that's watching that's thinking, well, I'm not dealing with chronic illness, life happens to all of us. It just, these things that Heather's going to be sharing apply whether you're sick, somebody in your family's sick, or life just turns upside down. So I'm super excited. So you had this colliding of health and expectations. And then what happened from there?
From there, I did a lot of crying, and I did a lot of soul searching, and a lot of thinking, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to, be this person. Then I had to learn to just cut stuff out and really prioritize. That's really the key in life in general, probably, but especially when you're dealing with chronic problems, is to learn to prioritize and to get help. Because you can't do everything. You just can't.
Right.
Or you can't do everything and actually have any sort of decent health, I guess. If you try to do everything, your health is going to suffer.
Right. And don't you think that it's very common for us to have a hard time, number one, trimming things out, but then asking for help or seeking help?
Seeking help is probably one of the hardest things. That's actually one of the things I put in my notes to talk about, is that asking for help, it can feel like you're admitting failure, like you're somehow saying you're not good enough. And that's why we shy away from it, because we don't want people to think that we can't handle our own business, And so I need to ask for help, but everyone's going to look at me like, I'm so sorry. I guess I can help, poor you. But that's not what it is. It takes a lot of strength to ask for help. It takes a lot of courage, a lot more than many of us have, to admit that we need help. And to even if we ask for it, even accepting it when it's generously offered, and we often refuse to accept it. Oh, no, I'm fine. I don't need anything.
Right. Boy, I've hit that ball before. Oh, no, I'm good. Okay, so diving right in, chronic illness, you have 3 areas of life that you have tips or tricks or encouragement to speak over moms. So the 3 are being a mom, dealing with chronic illness, dealing with feeding our families with chronic illness, and homeschooling, right? Are those the 3? Okay.
Those are the 3, yeah.
So I'm going to have you just take it away. So start with being a mom.
Being a mom, because that's first and foremost, we're moms, and so we have to learn. Like I said, you have to prioritize, because here's the thing: you can't do it all. You're not going to be able to keep a perfect house and fix perfect meals and look like June Cleaver with your hair done and your makeup done, perfect dress, and homeschool and all of it, and still actually at some point recover and regain your health.
Right.
Or make it through treatments or whatever is the sort of thing for your particular issue. And so you have to learn to say, which to my family, not which things do I think other people think are important, but which things are important to my family, because it's not the same things for everybody. I have some friends who they're on a journey where learning to live eco-friendly lifestyle is really very, very important to them. And so for them, learning to rely on, paper plates and things like that isn't going to be something that they're willing to do. But maybe they're willing to, buy more pre-made food, or maybe they're willing to hire somebody to come help clean their house.
Right.
For me, it was learning to lower my standards a little bit, because sometimes we can the bar set way too high for what we could possibly achieve.
Right.
And we that it's okay if the dishes sit in the sink, or if the laundry is done just enough to make sure everyone has clean underwear for the day, even if it's not all folded away neatly. Or to learn that bunnies can be your class pet for every once in a while.
Right.
So we have to learn to say, this is what's important to my family, and everything else just doesn't matter for now.
Right. So how do you go through that thought process? How do you start from this place of overwhelm to then start to find to, because we have to let those things that are priorities rise to the top. And sometimes the clutter and the chaos of life blinds us. So how do you quiet things down so that you can see, ooh, this can stay, this needs to go? How do you do that?
I pick three.
Ooh.
Pick three. Doesn't matter what category it is. Pick three. No more than three things that are your top priorities. Because it could be, whether that's healthy food or clean house or,
Mhm.
you know, everybody nice or whatever that's important to you, pick the three things that are the most important, the things that you would genuinely be upset or are health and safety things, like, we haven't had in a week or something like that, or we have no clean
Right.
dish of, or something like that. What are those three things that would be a genuine problem if they didn't get done versus the things that would just kind of irritate you if they didn't get done?
Right. I remember being all of my pregnancies, my body fell apart. It stopped being able to walk. It was horrible. And I remember I was pregnant with number, I don't know, 3, 4, 5. I can't remember. I have 5 kids too. And so I was on the sofa and I had an elderly gal that I had met at church, and she had come just to sit and visit with me. And there I am, I'm crying. She's like, "What's wrong?" And I was worried that the dust bunnies in the cobwebs in the corners were, my house was a mess still in that season, but there I was pregnant, worried about the cobwebs in the corner of my house. And she's like, "Oh, Becky, just let it go. Enjoy the season that you're in with your kids. Spend your time loving and cuddling your kids, not worrying about the cobwebs, because the cobwebs are still going to be there. But you can focus on your kids right now." So for me, in that season of not being able to walk, my priorities had to be getting my people fed,
Yeah,
somehow
that's
getting
a
my
good.
laundry done. Hmm?
That fed is
What's that?
usually a good priority to keep up there.
Well, and I have 5 sons, so food is a big deal.
Yeah.
So, and actually, that's where my lesson in learning to accept help came in the form of food, because I was, again, in a season. I've had different seasons. I don't struggle with chronic illness as much as I've had seasons of chronic pain, and or one of my kids has had major surgeries. So one of my kids was getting ready to have his first huge surgery. And I was, in a place where I was sharing with a friend and bursting into tears because I can't get dinner on the table. And I can't even think past what I need to focus on to help him be okay. And she looked at me, she said, "Oh, I'm going to bring you dinner. And I'm going to set up meals for you for the next 2 weeks." And my pride instantly, I stopped crying and I instantly was like, "You are not feeding my family."
Yeah.
And number one, she was due to have baby number 4 any day. She could barely walk. She had preeclampsia. And yet at the same time, she's like, "No, this is my love gift to you. I'm going to feed your family. And beyond that, I'm going to make sure other people feed your family." And I remember that it was so hard to accept help. But as the people came in and as they brought bags filled with paper products so that I didn't have to do dishes after the meal, and they were so thrilled to come alongside us and to do something practical, that I realized that accepting help was actually accepting something straight from God's hands. And that it
Yeah.
was such a powerful lesson, that and the burden that was lifted simply because I didn't have to worry about dinner. It set me free. So for me, priority was food, like getting my family fed, and then laundry, making sure hubby could make it to work in clean clothing. Big, huge things. Everything else kind of just I think that was all I really concentrated on was food and making sure the laundry got cleaned. And that was pretty much it. So
And it
crazy.
is, you learn that it feels so good for us to help others because we get to be a blessing to somebody.
Right.
But we forget that we're not giving them a chance to bless somebody's life.
Right. Because I know if I brought you dinner, it's my joy to do that.
1 second as I move because I have to. So forgive me for 1 second as I move.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Yep, I'm going to go plug in.
Perfect. So I'm just going to scroll through. So everybody that's on, welcome. Jennifer, I see that you're on, and you are so right that when we try to be the Proverbs 31 woman, we forget she had servants. That is so true. And Janine, I'm so excited that you're here. Yay. And Jody is hopefully going to be able to come and see us later. I don't know if she's actually in Australia, so I don't know if she's on live right now or if she'll come later, but just waiting for Heather to reposition and get her connection. But where we are so far in the descriptions, make sure you get the links because Heather has some goodies for you. There's some free resources and some really great just encouragement. So we'll talk about that. Okay, are you set?
I'm set. I'm plugged in. I won't die on you now.
Okay. Yay. Okay. Yay. So the first thing is to learn to prioritize for our family and to be okay with lowering the bar a little bit and to pick 3 areas that are they're non-negotiable. I need to make sure my family eats, that whatever that is for you. So it's going to be different for everybody.
It is.
Okay. Are there any more tips specifically for mom, just herself?
Yeah. So what are the ways you can get help? And there's to think, well, I can't get help, especially as homeschooling moms who think I can't get help. We're surviving on one income, right? That's our common thing. But there are lots of ways to get help, especially the age we live in. There's so many online options now. So one of the things I've talked about in some of the posts I've written is online grocery shopping. Because here's the thing, when you're struggling physically, grocery shopping, it's amazing how much it can take out of you. Just wandering around the store, standing in lines with you, trying to corral children, which is exhausting in of itself. Go on. Okay, if you have a Walmart near you, most Walmarts now have, the sort of online, literally just drive up and they will load it into your car for you for chronic health.
Really?
Kids who go little bananas in the grocery store. Not that I've
my kids are perfect.
Yeah, mine are perfect. Mine have never acted up in the grocery store. I saw
somebody
saying that the other day. I thought, your kids have never acted up. If you have an Amazon Prime membership, they have Prime Now for grocery delivery. There's even things like you can get meat and vegetables delivered right to your door. It doesn't get much better than the groceries being delivered straight to your door. You go online, it shows up at your house.
Well, and I've had ways you can more expensive? Help. Is it more expensive? Do you know?
So,
I haven't done.
It depends on the company you're going through. So, for example, like we used ButcherBox for a while, and that's and it's more expensive than the cheap stuff you're going to get in the grocery store, but it's all organic and grass-fed and things, so it's cheaper than what you would pay for that same type of meat in the store.
Okay.
Imperfect produce is something we used for a while, and it actually is less expensive because basically the stuff that's sort of grocery stores because it doesn't look and so they sell it at a discount and they deliver it to your door. And honestly, I'd pay
I didn't know they did that. I did not know that they did that here in the States. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there's various ones. There's I think there's something called Full Circle. So do some Googling available in your area because there's all kinds of things. And like I said, most stores now in every area of the country have some sort of like online click list ordering where you can just drive up and they'll put it in your car. And that saves you so much energy when you have there That saves you a lot. Finding through your church, are there kids who need to get some volunteer hours in and some mother's helper? A lot
Right.
of high schools now have requirements, especially for different service clubs, where the kids have to get a certain number of service hours in. So if
Right.
there are opportunity for them to get those hours in, helping out even for your kids, or changing diapers for you, or keeping them entertained while you lay down and rest for a little while, because
That's a
we
great
tend to
idea.
prioritize rest. So there's lots of
So I
ways to get
love
help and hire help.
Okay. Help and hire help. And sometimes, you'd have to prioritize as a family, that it may just be that it's something that you need to invest in or make
Yeah.
an accommodation in another way. Because you physically can't go there, then you would absolutely have to, you'd have to get help. Otherwise, things just won't get done. So
Yeah.
even
And
like
yeah, that's the
having
thing.
somebody take your, go ahead.
Yeah, look at with your family. Can you rearrange your budget and reprioritize the things to afford to bring somebody in? Even if it's bringing somebody in once a month to do a deep cleaning thing, you can keep up with day to day, but you can't handle the, scrubbing and the things like that, the really physically taxing stuff. Can you bring
Right.
somebody in once a month?
Great idea. I love the idea of grocery shopping help. That's huge. My son
Yes.
actually works at a grocery store, and so I know that they do, online delivery service, but I didn't exercise using that when I was struggling. So that would be super helpful.
I
And
tested it.
that's fantastic. Okay, so then any other tips before we move on to the next?
No, I think the sort of natural thing that flows into is feeding your family when you're dealing with chronic health problems.
Yes. And let me peek
So
before you can't see the comments, but let me just go through really quick. So Jennifer was talking about online shopping, especially if you have kids, because kids don't give any problems in the store. Have you heard of
no,
Instacart? I haven't heard of.
Instacart's another great.
Okay, cool. And then is it Luva or Luava? I think anything that interferes with your ability to function for an extended
Yeah,
period of time is chronic.
I
And rheumatoid arthritis definitely could, if it
oh yeah.
impacts the way that you are moving around. So and you are correct, Luava. Oh, Luiva. She showed me how to say it. Luiva, that um, different seasons in life, different things knock us off our feet. So for the purpose of this conversation, we're talking about chronic illness, especially when it affects us as the chief cook and bottle washer within our house, mom. But it applies to everything. So Instapot, I don't have one, but I heard that these are lifesavers.
They're
And
amazing.
Janine, buying in bulk. So we're going to now, so we can absolutely start talking about moving on to meals. So we've got grocery shopping under control because either friends, people from church, or we are doing online grocery shopping type things. So
Yeah.
now what kind of tips and tricks for meals?
So number one is to keep it simple. Like
Mm-hmm.
this isn't the time when you're struggling to get through each day. This isn't the time for elaborate Pinterest recipes.
Right.
This is not the time or place for that. I mean, those are great. I love them. My Pinterest boards are full of them. But you have to again prioritize. If the priority is just getting people fed, if you use up all of your energy on something that takes 3 hours to cook, you're barely going to make it through the day.
Right.
I think, okay, this is where the Costco or whatever grocery store you have, rotisserie chickens, they come in quite handy. They can be used
Yes.
more things that I can count. You can chop them up and add them to a salad, or put them with spaghetti, or serve them as a side dish, or on the side with potatoes on the side, or whatever. Those things are fantastic to get because it's cooked, and especially if you get the Costco ones, they're ridiculously cheap. They actually
Yes.
underprice them, so they'll get you in the store to buy other things.
Yes.
And then you can put that simply with toss some potatoes in the oven and, zap some frozen vegetables, and bam, you've got a balanced meal that didn't take all of your energy for the
Right.
day. Or going to use the Instant Pot and the crock pot. Throw some stuff in, throw some chicken in with your favorite sauce, whether it's spaghetti sauce or barbecue sauce or curry sauce or whatever it is. Cook it
Right.
up and put some sort of starch and some sort of vegetable. Balanced meal. Keep it
Right.
really simple. Don't be afraid or ashamed to use pre-made food items.
Thank you. Repeat that, please.
Yes, please do not be afraid or ashamed to use pre-made food items. They're there for a reason. There's great, frozen meatballs out there. That's
Yes.
great. But meatballs don't take that much work, but they do if you don't hardly have any energy, or it's hard to stand up, or your hands are struggling to do anything because of rheumatoid arthritis, or whatever it is.
Right.
There was a season where I could barely be on my feet at all because my blood pressure would sink and so I'd get woozy.
Oh,
And so I couldn't get up. And so I had to rely on those pre-made things. And so there were, there's lots of options that are healthy options. If you have a Costco or a Sam's Club near you, check them out. They've got a lot of like frozen burger patties that's literally just the meat and salt, nothing yucky added into it, or, frozen meatballs, or pre-cooked frozen chicken, things
right.
like that, or those things that you can then take, heat up, and serve to your family, and everybody is fed, which is priority number one.
Right.
And if it's important to you, you can still have those healthy options.
Right. Two things that I did. One was I oversimplified our menu, where every single day we have had exactly the same breakfast. And I taught the kids to make it. So the kids are in charge of breakfast. And it was either whatever the season was, it was either oatmeal or cereal. And that was it. So it was just breakfast. For lunch, we had the same lunch every single day. And then every Monday, we had spaghetti. Every Tuesday, we had tacos. It was a rinse, repeat menu, period. And then that helped so much because it was like, oh, it's Pizza Friday, or, oh, it's Taco Tuesday. And I trained in the kids, once the kids were old enough to do any of it, then they started to actually they would be captain of a meal. So they would either make the ground beef or whatever. So simplified the menus. The other trick that I learned is that, and I don't have a bin right here, but if you take a bin or a basket and you write down everything that belongs in a meal, you can put that in your pantry and you can put all the ingredients in there. So if it's all pre-made things, and maybe it's chili, just open and dump to make chili, you can have this basket that has all the ingredients that you need to make chili. And then the kids can then pull the basket out and just, it's open and dump into the pot and it's ready to go. And
let your kids, this is a great chance for them. Here's the thing. We see a lot now about kids today growing up very entitled, very self-centered. This is a great chance, as miserable as chronic illness can be, it's a great chance for your kids to learn the real day in and day out of what it means to be in a family and what it means to serve those they love.
Yeah.
Because if you can't get up and cook, there are days I just couldn't.
Yeah.
And so my kids learned to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Barring allergies, nobody's going to die from having PBJ a couple times a week.
Right.
They're going to live.
Yeah. My kids my kids were in charge when I was pregnant. My older son was in charge of everything from the waist down in the house because I couldn't get down on the floor. And I mean everything. He helped with laundry. He helped to diaper kids. He had to. It was just the season that we were in. And then when I cooked, and I was cooking simply, if I was making ground beef, I made a quadruple batch of ground beef and I froze it into 3 sections so that I always had ground beef in the freezer.
Oh, yeah.
And so not only did we have rinse repeat meals, but almost everything I made, I doubled or tripled so that I'd make one and freeze 2. And so I always had homemade meals ready either the kids made them or I could pull it out of the fridge. So that made a huge, huge difference. So keeping it simple. Go ahead.
Batch cooking on good days, because the thing about chronic illness is you're going to have good days and bad days.
Right.
Take advantage of the good days. Don't push too hard. I
Right.
may be guilty of that myself quite often, but
right.
Take advantage of those good days and do some batch cooking. Get make a double or triple batch of taco meat and then
Right.
pop it in the freezer, because when you have that bad day, it's going to come in really handy to have that, that taco meat that you can just pull out and let it defrost, pop it in the microwave.
Right.
A 6-year-old can pop that in the microwave and warm that up for the family. And
Right.
then everybody can serve themselves. Got, warm up a can of refries, you got your tortillas, and you've got taco night.
Right. We learned how when I had foot surgery about 4 years ago, and it was a failed surgery where instead of being down for 2 weeks, I was down for 6 months where I couldn't walk, and still have issues with my foot today. But I was down, and here's my husband. All right, gentlemen, welcome to cooking camp. And he had all 5 kids in the kitchen. He was like, you're executive chef, you're a prep chef, you're a sous chef, you're a cleanup crew. And he whipped those kids in love into the ability, they were in charge of everything. What are you making? What do we need to get from the store? These types of seasons, like you said, they're so rich in life skills and empowering our kids to cook for themselves or to come together as a team. I struggled watching my kids take care of those things. So much so that when I finally could get back on my feet, that I took all the responsibility back on my own shoulders. And that was a mistake because they had learned to be a part of the team when mom was broken. But then they expected to not be part of the team when mom was well. And so it really is a gift in disguise when our feet are knocked out from underneath us. Okay, wait, let me look real quick because a lot of people have commented. So, and I gotta take my glasses off because I can't see. Just a second. So Jennifer is applying these same things with a battle of depression. Truly, anything that knocks you off your feet.
Be physical, something's wrong as far as, Lyme disease, which is what I deal with, or rheumatoid arthritis. Mental health applies in the same way.
Yes, and can be just as debilitating. And you need the same level. You need to still simplify down to your 3. You still need help. Tammy says these are good tips for times when we're caring for others, like parents. Yeah. And what's an IP? It says, Becky, you need an IP. Oh, yes, I do. I just got my oven back. My oven was broken. That was fun. Instapot plus freezer cooking equals heaven. Amen. What I found too is those seasons when I got really good at freezer meals, it eventually turned into a ministry that, man, if I bumped into you and I knew you were struggling, I could just go in my freezer and hand you dinner. It was just defrost and ready to go. Tacos and quesadillas are fantastic. Those chickens at Costco and Sam Club, my son used to be the rotisserie chicken guy at Costco, my oldest son. And what I did was I considered the chicken free because then I took all the meat off and then I made broth from the chickens.
Yes.
So, and it's really good, healthy stuff.
When you're struggling with health, you can make that broth right in the crock pot.
Yes, I did that every time. Every time. Janine has lupus. Never know when you'll have a flare, and you buy in bulk. And when you're feeling good, divide things and freeze. I just started to, Janine, where I buy. My kids are all almost still at home, so I buy meat in bulk, and then when we get home, we put all the chicken into bags, and we automatically marinate all the meat so that we freeze it so that it's pre-marinated, ready to go. So that makes it's a kid thing that we can do with our kids. So Sam's Club, pre-meals. So we've got baskets, sharing that the kids, chores and helping out. Okay. Yeah. Broth and Instapot too. Okay, so everybody's on board. Just making sure.
Get your kids jumping in there, doing what they can for their age. Now, I won't lie.
Yep.
At first, it's more work, not less.
Yes.
Because the truth is, when you're teaching a little one to do something, they're going to do it wrong for a while before they do it right.
Right. Right.
And that's where that setting your standards lower comes in handy.
Yes.
Good job, sweetie. The job is half done, but it's half done to the best of your ability.
Yes.
And so I'm proud of you. And I'll just, either accept the fact that it's half done or fix it later,
Right.
But getting them to help, even little things like, when I was recovering from having babies and, those early days, when you can't hardly walk, and just, hey, can you run this diaper to the trash for me?
Right.
That's something that a 2-year-old can do. They can be the one in charge of running the diaper onto the trash can, or they
And
can be
they're
the one in charge
thrilled.
of
They're thrilled
things
to do
wrong.
it.
They are.
They're thrilled. We forget that, we take those things away from our kids because because we feel guilty, and yet
Yep.
they're dying to be useful and necessary, and they can tell the difference between, oh, you're just trying to keep me busy, or I'm really helping mom. They can
can
tell.
really
They
busy.
can. The other thing I did too was buddy system. When you've got a lot of kids, like we do, we teamed up our kids where we'd have the older work with the 3-year-old, or the next one work with. So it's like, your job is to teach this guy how to empty the trash. Your job is to teach this one how to load the dishwasher. And so we just embraced the fact that we needed to help each other. So, okay, I see another long comment. Let's see. Thank you so much for these much needed reminders of how our children can learn and benefit through tough health challenges. I struggle not being able to do everything in life with multiple sclerosis. Thank you, though, for how the Lord uses this to teach our children much necessary skills. It's not even, it's ridiculous how much value our kids get out of these things. It's fantastic.
And it's so easy to only be able to fix their eyes on the things that the ways they're suffering or the ways they're missing out, because the reality is there are things they miss out on when we're in these seasons. That's life. But that's true for anything. There's always going to be a negative and a positive. And it's easy to see those negative things, but we forget that there are ways they're being blessed. They're getting to learn amazing things. They're getting to learn empathy. That's something that is so important for them to learn, is empathy and how to really be compassionate and grace-filled and help others, because one day they're going to have families of their own, especially our sons. They're going to have wives of their own one day. And I want them to know how to take care of those wives when they're having those same kinds of seasons.
2 days ago, 3 days ago, I was rushing in the kitchen, and I had to go pick up one kid from driver's school. I had another kid getting ready to go for work, and I grabbed our family the big, heavy metal bowl to do something, probably like cut up lettuce or something, and I dropped it directly on my toes. And confident I broke my big toe and my second toe. And but this is relevant because we've gone through these patterns of coming together as a family and helping when somebody else is weaker. What happened was, in tears, I go lay down on the sofa. All of the boys rallied up, made dinner. They actually carried, we were having taco salad. After I composed myself, I couldn't move. I'm on the sofa. Here they come with my plate of lettuce. And then they had a tray with all the condiments and spoons and here you go, Mom. And they wouldn't let me get up. They wouldn't let me do anything because they had learned empathy, and because that the ability to serve others is something that we need to practice. And they've done it a lot through the years, but here they needed no training. They just were on it when Mom went down.
And think about what a blessing that'll be to their wives and their children one day in the future.
Exactly. So let's see. Kim says, as soon as mines were walking, they were throwing away their own diapers. Yes, that is so smart. Okay, so meals. Keep it simple. I love Sam the cooking guy. If you've ever watched his shows, he always does these great meals with partially pre-made food. And one of his favorite things are the rotisserie chickens, because you just pull it and then dump everything else in. Really good. And then don't eat guilt about using, eating, or serving pre-made food.
Yep.
Perfect. Any other tips about meals?
Accept help if it is possible. Now, there have been times that we haven't really been able to accept help in that form because of food allergies in our family.
Right.
But if you are able to accept help, if somebody says, you know, in your church says, hey, how about we set up a meal train? Don't let, and I'm going to be real here, and it's a little blunt, but don't let your pride get in the way.
Yes.
Because more often than not, it's our pride that gets in the way of these things. We don't want to feel weak. We don't want to seem embarrassed. And so we say, no, I'm fine. And we don't accept help. And it's pride more than anything else, more often than not, when we refuse to accept it when it's offered. And so don't let that get in the way, because that's getting in the way of your family getting the help they need. And it's getting in the way of somebody else getting to be a blessing to you.
Right. Which is so huge. And it's so huge. Jennifer asked a quick question about Sam the Cooking Guy on YouTube. This is my favorite. It's not my favorite, but my white bean chili chicken is on there. I love Sam the Cooking Guy. He's probably on YouTube. So accept help. That's huge. And it kind of, we need to also keep our eyes open for each other too. So we need to accept help, but we also need to watch people in our sphere of influence, because there's always someone around us that needs something too. So God kind of knits us together, you know, with people that need help too. So we can gird each other up, which is important. So, okay. So then, just in the interest of time, so now we've got Mom, who's simplified things and has prioritized things for her family. We've got feeding our family under control, because we're not trying to be Pinterest perfect, but being okay, trying to just put meals on the table, simplifying. It's okay for it to be roast beef Monday or Taco Tuesday or Spaghetti Thursday every single week. It's not going to kill our kids to have oatmeal every day.
Predictability, honest.
So good. Okay, so now we're all homeschool moms. So how does this translate into, what about homeschool?
So this was the hardest one for me, right? Because when we start homeschooling, we have this vision in our heads of what our life will be like. And it's going to be fantastic, right? And it's going to be amazing. It's going to be all these elaborate things and wonderful experiences. And our kids are going to have these, you know, be in all of these activities. And then life happens.
Right.
And you can choose two things. You can choose to either continue to push to get all those things done and suffer the consequences, or you can choose to prioritize your work and your time as a homeschooler.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you the second one's the better option. Spoiler alert, better to prioritize than to push through.
Yes.
Because you need to prioritize what you do for your lessons and what you do for your outside activities. Yes. Because it's easy as schoolers to let outside activities crowd out our time.
Yes.
And so one of the resources that we've talked about that's listed on that thing is a relaxed homeschool planning guide.
Uh-huh.
And it really walks you through the steps. It walks you through the steps of how to set those priorities for your homeschool specifically. And one of the things to recognize as a homeschooler is that those other areas of life influence our homeschooling. So if you're trying to have a perfect house, that's energy you're taking away from homeschooling.
Right.
Because there's only so much you have. So whatever you give to something else, you don't have to give to homeschooling.
Right.
And so you also need to learn to accept help in homeschooling. And that could be hiring a tutor, but it doesn't have to be. It could be using digital curriculum.
Right.
That's when I had my fourth. I had just had my fourth. And we had this fantastic math curriculum, comes highly recommended in the homeschool world. And it's great, but it's very parent intensive. And I was so excited to use it. And then I had my fourth, and oh my, did I have a hard recovery from her birth. And I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. And a friend, and then another friend, and then another source all recommended this same online math site. It's called Zern, if you're looking into it. It's kindergarten through fifth grade, totally free, complete math curriculum online. We love it. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do this because, to be perfectly honest, it's free. So if we hate it, I didn't spend anything on it.
Right.
And so if I find that I absolutely hate it, I don't feel guilty for wasting money. And it turns out we loved it, and it took the pressure off of me to be teaching that. I then was there to help. If they needed help with something, I was there to help them. And they could sit right next to me and do their lesson while I changed diapers and fed a baby and put my feet up because I couldn't hardly walk and all of that. And so, or things like Matthew C, you can use that. That's online, you know, or on CD, depending on which version you get.
Right.
That takes pressure off of you so that you can be there as the guide, but not as the lead teacher.
Right.
What can you do? What can Netflix teach your kids?
A lot. A lot.
A lot.
A lot.
So in that list of resources, you're going to find a link for something I call the Exhausted Homeschool Moms Toolkit.
Wait, I'm showing everybody. I'm showing everybody. So the printable, it's in the descriptions too, but when you get this, right here is the easy way to grab Heather's Relaxed Homeschool Planning Guide. So you click there and it goes immediately to a subscription page. You pop in your email and then you get access to the Relaxed Homeschool Planning. So then she's got these other resources here that you can click and you can go grab these resources that she's talking about. So sorry.
Yes. Oh, no. The Exhausted Homeschool Moms Toolkit came out of, we were in that rough season and I couldn't do anything. And I had chronic laryngitis as part of this. And so I couldn't even read out loud to my kids.
Oh, wow.
And I had something for them to learn and I couldn't teach it. And so I started looking through a lot of things, what was available on Netflix, what was available on Prime Video. If you have an Amazon Prime membership, you have free access to Prime Video, if you didn't know that.
Right.
And there's so many great educational shows out, everything from preschool age through high school age. And so that toolkit lists it down by streaming service, you know, what's available on each of these services. And then it's got these great guides that your kids can use to demonstrate back to you what they've learned from these shows. And it's got, you know, for early, it's just got a place for them to draw a picture of it. For, you know, kids who might be at the high school level, it's got a place for them to write out a paragraph about what they learned.
That's fantastic. I have these, I created the, what do I call them? Video record sheets for that same reason. Because number one, you almost feel guilty, like, oh, I'm having my kid watch this educational thing and then I'm having them draw a picture and then tell me about it or write a paragraph. You think you're doing a disservice to your kids when in fact, you're actually empowering them to take control over what they're learning and how they share it. It's actually a beautiful way to homeschool. And it's kind of one of the backdoor secrets that God, I think, uses chronic illness or seasons when life is really hard to strip away all the fluff so that you get down to, you know, you don't need a worksheet. You just need to demonstrate what you're learning. And so you can do that with picture or sidewalk chalk or, you know, just tell mom Legos. About it, right? So
Legos are a great one.
Lego.
Those stages, we also her draw what you learn, because I have one kid who loves to draw, so she would draw a picture of what she learned.
Right.
Another kid who Legos or Minecraft. One of my sons has built stuff in Minecraft to demonstrate what he's learned.
Right.
You know, so when we learned about castles, he built a castle, or, you know, all of these things. They can demonstrate what they've learned in unique ways, just like they can get that information in unique ways.
Right. I love it.
Another great way to be able to cut back when you're homeschooling with chronic illness is read aloud. The power of a read aloud. You can use that to cover multiple things. You're using it to cover language arts, because even all kinds of research shows that even middle schoolers benefit from being read aloud too. It's not just for 5-year-olds. And you can use that to then cover your social studies and your science at the same time. You know, if you read a book about Louis Pasteur and how he discovered germs and things like that, you're covering history and science and reading all at one time.
Yes. Yes. You know what else I did too? You just reminded me, I had an old-fashioned tape recorder, but you can use an app on your phone that has a microphone. And I would sit with my kids and I would read aloud with them, and they would make the page turning sound. Ding. So we would read aloud and they would go ding, and we'd turn the page and we'd read the whole book and record it. And then they had a read aloud with mom filled with, oh, isn't that cute? Or, oh, I love you so much. It was wonderful. And I had my older kids make read alouds. And so then I was able to give them the tape recorder and the book, and they were able to do read aloud with mom without mom. And they still were able to do that. I also created a poster that had different things for my littles, whatever they were learning, shapes, their name, numbers, animals. And I sat with them on the floor or wherever, and I recorded us going through this poster of, oh, do you see your name? How do you spell your name? I-S-A. And we did this whole thing. Oh, can you walk toe to toe across the living room? And I had everything from counting and reading and somersaults and, you know, stand on your head or whatever they needed to do. And then during school for a couple weeks, they would do their tape.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
That's how I did kindergarten and then taught 5th grade, was that we recorded what we were doing for kindergarten, and I taught them, we modeled it, and we practiced. And then it was tape time, and they would either listen to stories that we had already read and snuggled together doing, or they'd do their special little poster. And it was huge, because it was maybe half an hour or probably about a half an hour long of activities that we had done together that were fun, and then they practiced and reinforced. So read alouds are powerful. And you said read alouds even middle school. I don't think we should ever stop reading aloud to our kids.
No, I think.
Yep.
I used to be a middle school teacher. That's my background. I was a middle school teacher, and I will tell you what, even through 8th grade, they loved it. They loved and they loved the stories that we would pick.
Yes.
Even I read Narnia, the Narnia series with my 8th graders, and they ate it up.
Yes.
Because that never gets old. Narnia series is fantastic.
It never does. And my kids will run from me in a bookstore because they know I'm going to read aloud to them in a bookstore. I don't care if you're 21. This book is awesome. Let me read it to you.
That's great.
Okay, so homeschool tutors, all the read alouds, online help. What else?
Audiobooks. You know, especially when I was going through periods of laryngitis. Now, audiobooks didn't end up working for my kids because they couldn't focus, but a lot of kids do fantastic with audiobooks. Get some great audiobooks. If you're struggling with fatigue or with losing your voice or anything like that, then get some great audiobooks for your kids to listen to. That's a great thing for them to listen to have a little bit of quiet time during the day. Put them in their room with an audiobook playing, and then you can get some time to rest, or everybody lay down on the bed together and listen to the audiobook, and you get to rest while they get to hear a story.
Right. So important. And the other,
prioritize rest.
I think that especially when we're struggling, we have to have those rest pockets built into our day. I didn't learn that lesson until I was a mom of at least 2 kids. I think I learned it with my second, but by the time it was time to have rest time, I had 3 or 4 kids. Like it was like, wow, all of a sudden I was surrounded. But we built our day such that we had a quiet pocket of time in the morning, and then we had nap time in the afternoon, and then or quiet time. My kids were required to have independent, silent nap time until their 5th birthday. And then if they chose to sleep, that was their business. But it was required time where they would lay down, and all I would give them were books. That's all that they were allowed to do during that time. And so it grew this love for reading. It grew this love for sitting at rest, for independent play, for focus.
Yeah.
It's so important. So audiobooks are a great way to do that, either as a group or even independently, you know. So I think it's a fantastic idea.
And especially if they're doing it independently, that's a great chance for them to learn to follow their own interests and be, lifelong self-motivated learners. What is it
Right.
they're into? Into horses? Are they into historical fiction? Are they into science fiction?
Right.
Superheroes? Whatever it is, you can find an audiobook for it somewhere.
For sure. For sure. And your kids don't need to read the words too. So even if my littles, when they couldn't read, I'd give them a bin of or a basket of board books or picture books, and they would just read the pictures for however long quiet time was. And reading pictures and thinking about a story is reading.
It is actually part of the pre-reading stage.
Yes.
It is.
So important. Okay, so homeschool, simplifying, using online resources, cutting back, using read alouds. What else? You're like gold. I love this.
Just do less. Remember those 2 words, do less. Yeah, see, less is more. Yeah, we think that more is better, but the reality is actually in general, it's not, as a whole, because they find all kinds of problems with kids who are overscheduled.
Right.
But especially when you need rest, this is a time for less is more, for do less.
Yeah.
Cut stuff out, trim the fat. Go through that relaxed homeschool planning guide, and it's going to walk you through all of the steps of how do I figure out what's my top, what are my other things, and then those other things, save those for the good days. It doesn't mean you can't ever do those other things again. So for us last year, our top 3 were Bible reading and math. And so we read a Bible story, or on days when I couldn't read out loud because my throat was too messed up, we watched Superbook. Again, if you have Prime Video, Superbook on there. It's a fantastic show. My kids love it. And where they travel back in time to learn lessons watching people in the Bible.
Very cool.
Oh, it's really neat.
I haven't seen that one.
They have some conflict in their life right now, and then all of a sudden they get magically transported back to a Bible story where they're facing the same problem. And then they learn to then come back to their own time and apply those lessons.
Oh, very cool.
And then, they would do their math online, and then days I could read out loud, I read to them. Days I couldn't, they read to me.
Right.
So, and then those were on the bad days. That's all we did. And on the really bad days, we didn't even do that. On really, really bad days, Super Y covered reading for us for the day.
Right.
And on the good days, we got to spelling and handwriting and all of these other things that are great, but they're great when we can, not when we can't.
Right. Because otherwise they're chains around our neck. They add to the stress, which then makes us more fatigued or more worn down, or affects our rest. So we can't be restored to have that good day. We need the ability to the detox from all the things. And it's the same whether you're struggling with chronic illness or just homeschool in general. It's so tempting to do Bible, math, history, science, language, literature, handwriting, music, foreign language, and pole vaulting. And it's like,
3 sports, 2 clubs.
It's like, oh yes, don't forget the play dates and the mommy days and it's unbelievable. And the more kids we have, now we have history at 2nd grade and 3rd grade and 5th grade, and we have science for this and that. And it's like, no, combine all the kids together, period.
That was the other tip. Thank you for reminding me, is combine whenever, wherever, and however you can.
Yes.
You can teach the same history concept and just have different expectation based on the child's level. You know, so they can then do more. If you've got a 5th grader, they can do more than a 1st grader, but you're still covering the same topic. So you let the 5th grader go do a little bit more reading on their own because they're able to by that age.
Right.
They can then go watch a history documentary on Netflix, or they can write a paragraph about it. Whereas the 1st grader is just going to tell you what they learned about or draw a picture of what they learned. Bible, do it all together. You don't need to do Bible separately by age. Math they're going to do individually because that's one of those subjects where that's kind of a necessity. But that's when you rely on something. If you don't have it in you to do the full lesson by yourself, then you rely on something like an online math program or a tutor or something like that.
Right. And I personally combined, my kids are, when in the heart of homeschooling, when I was homeschooling them all, I had a high schooler, a junior higher, and then 3 elementary schoolers. And so we had our 3 musketeers. We did everything together as musketeers. And then we had the middle school and the high schooler. And so the high schooler definitely had been trained to be an independent worker at that point. The middle schooler was at least 50% independent. And then the musketeers, we just did together. Even with math, we would teach, I'd teach a concept and then I would water it down for the youngers. And it turned out that in the end, now I'm on the other side. So my youngest is 13. And so I have 13, 15, 17 and older. And it didn't hinder them at all in their education to be grouped together. In fact, it actually made them stronger because the one year I had my kid's great grandmother was, she stayed with us for a few weeks and she was a one-room school teacher back in Iowa. And
they used to do.
She sat there and she's like, oh, Becky, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I was like, but Grandma, I can't get to the little kids. I'm working with the older kids and I never have time to teach the little kids. She said, no, you just keep them in the same room. Give them something like a sand table or a water table or blocks or coloring books. Keep them in the same room and watch. And so sure enough, I was like, okay. So anytime we would do anything, the kids were there, the little kids, totally. My youngest didn't read till he was 10. Totally couldn't do what the kids were doing. But when it came time to say, oh, what did you learn about such and such? I would look to my oldest son. And sure enough, the 5-year-old would be like, oh, this is what happened. And these are the dates. And this is what he would like rattle all the stuff, even though he was playing Legos the whole time. They learn by osmosis. It's beautiful. So combining and not worrying, because you taught in the classroom too, there's this cycle. They're going to get it again and they're going to get it again. So anyway, cool. I'm so excited. I keep interrupting you and I apologize.
Oh, no.
This is good stuff.
That's exactly what I was thinking at that exact moment, is that's how they used to do it in the one-room schoolhouses.
Yes.
All the kids were there together and they taught the same concept, but at different levels.
Exactly. Okay, wait, there's there's a whole stream of comments. I ignore them because I get distracted. So, okay, so Jennifer found a book of Bible lessons using Legos. We have that same book. My kids love that. I'm sitting in a room surrounded. It's dark, but you can see I am sitting in my Lego room. I don't know if you can tell, that's Lego chaos and that's Lego chaos. I'm in the most creative mess and I just let it go. I don't worry about it. It's just the way it is. But Legos are fantastic. Fantastic. I don't remember which app we were talking about. I think that at that point, you'll have to ask that question again. What were we talking about? Was it math? I think it was Zern, right? The Zern.org.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Jennifer was talking about utilizing the recording. It saved my life. That was huge. And Janina loved this. She ramped it up. They recorded stories on the phone, then wrote about it and made a book. I love that.
I love it. We've done that where they tell you.
Yeah. This one is audio scripture followed by quiet time. Teach quiet time to listen to God. In our day and age, I went to the doctor's today with one of my kids, and there were about 11 other people in the waiting room. And my son and I were sitting there, and every other person in the waiting room was staring at their phone. And it was such a symptom that our kids today get so little of just brain space where they can process or think. They need quiet time. you know, one of my kids, my husband said, because everybody else was sick, he goes, "You okay?" He goes, "Yeah, boredom's good because creativity comes from being bored."
Mm.
Like, dude, you are right. That's exactly what Einstein said. Okay, Jelly Telly has Superbook. Have you had that one?
We've used Jelly Telly once before. Yeah, Superbook's on a few things. Plus,
Okay.
you can buy their DVDs online, I think.
Okay. So there's all kinds of resources out there. And then there's also like classes. Home ec would be anything that you do that you're teaching your kids at home. Washing dishes, folding laundry, emptying dishwashers, all that stuff is home ec. Co-op, if you have the energy. So
Yes.
you really need to measure. I think when you're struggling in that season, you have to really practice saying the word no. No. It's you have to stand in front of the mirror and just say, no, I can't do it.
Good
So,
thing. Good thing.
um, okay, 3 girls ages 4, 3, and 1. How old did you homeschool your littles? This is a personal question. If I could go back and do it over, I wouldn't hand my kids pencils until they were about 10. And I'm not even joking. They would write if they begged me, but we're in such a hurry to get this academic journey on the road. But truthfully, if we just read aloud to our kids and taught them basic math things, but we watered them with excellent story, we would marinate their spirits and ignite their curiosity in ways that no curriculum on the planet could do. It's
I always
amazing.
they start to ask
Yeah, I think
when
it's
they ask
important.
for it, when they're ready. And the thing is, it's different for each kid. I have 5 kids, so 3 of them have been school age so far. One's just going to start kindergarten this year. But of my 3 who have hit school age so far, 2 started reading at 4.5. One didn't even know all of his letters at 6.
Right,
Because he wasn't ready. And he's
right.
a great reader. He reads great now. He reads his Bible every night.
Yeah,
He just started switching to, an NIRV Bible, full regular Bible, and he loves it. But
cool.
it wasn't his time at 4.5. I have another one who just turned 5. She's going to start kindergarten this year. She's just starting to get the idea of piecing letters together to make words. So she can
Right,
read hat and cat. That's
right,
about it. Um, and that's okay. So when they ask, but she's asked to learn to read now. And
right,
so we do light things, but as soon as she's done, she's done. We don't push it.
right. And see, all 5 of mine were delayed when it came to school
Yeah.
things. Delayed meaning that if you put them next to a kid in a public school setting, that they wouldn't match at the younger ages. But we never pushed it, and we too waited for them to ask. My youngest was the most confusing reader that we had, and it's like, okay, don't stress. It's not a big deal. Just keep reading to him. Keep reading to him. Keep reading to him. And what ended up happening is that when the light bulb clicked at 10, he went from not reading at all to reading chapter books seemingly overnight. And he has the highest reading comprehension out of all of the kids because he didn't spend any time as a little kid trying to decode words. Instead, he
Yeah.
absorbed story. And he's now a writer at 13, and his stories are unbelievable. He has such an ability to weave ideas together, all because he was marinated. He's full of flavor. He's full of ideas, full of curiosity, full of imagination. So don't worry. Don't be in a rush.
Yeah.
If your kids are asking at 4, go for it. But do it like I would recommend. Do it more
But like,
creatively, where you're outside, the kids are playing, you're discovering ladybugs, and then when you're at the library, you get books on ladybugs, and you're watching shows on ladybugs or whatever that topic is, where they're moving and touching and smelling and feeling and interacting, and then you read books that go along with that. I think you'd get so much further ahead. That's just my opinion, but that's
and it's also going to vary depending on your kid. I have a kid, my oldest, she has loved workbooks from the start.
right.
It just makes her little heart happy.
Yep,
And
that would
so
be
great workbooks, by all means, use them. Use
right.
them. That's another great tip for getting through homeschooling is we've been through what we call the Costco workbook seasons. You know,
Yeah.
those all-in-one grade level workbooks you can get from Costco that cover math, science, reading, writing, all of that.
Yeah.
That
One
and
page
then
a
say,
day done.
the next page. Do the next page. And
Right.
I'm here to help you with the next page.
Right. So important. Okay, two more things. Oh, okay, the app to record stories. You can just Google or you can just look for apps that you can put on your smartphone if you have one. I had an old-fashioned tape recorder where you'd put the cassette tapes that you'd have to rewind, you know, fix with a pencil. Old-fashioned tape recorder. The kids love them. And so we would record them that way, or I had an app on my phone. I personally am very careful about handing my kids smart devices. So if they were going to do read alouds, I disconnected it so they couldn't be online at all. I never wanted that to be an issue. Busy activity, we talked about cramming subjects. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I think that's it. So coming full circle, all of these things have the same thread.
Yeah.
And that's simplifying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being okay with saying no. Less is more, and realizing that you're giving your kids a gift too, and you're giving yourself a gift when you let go of whatever that is, the perfect house, Pinterest perfect crafts that your kids are doing, elaborate meals, or whatever the case may be. So,
And we're teaching our kids. So this is especially, to me, this is especially important for those of us with daughters because they're going to be moms one day.
right.
We teach our kids how to take care of themselves as moms by how we take care of ourselves as moms.
Right.
So do you want your daughter one day to think that she has to push past her limits in order to be a good mom? Of course
Oh,
we would say no, of course I want my daughter to do that. But then
right.
are we setting an example in our own lives?
I love that.
You know, we're teaching our sons what to expect out of their own wives one day. Do we want them
Right.
to expect that the wife is going to get up when she's not well and continue to do everything for everybody because that's what a good mom does? Or do we want them to expect that she'll learn to take care of herself and make sure that she's well taken care of so that she can take care of her family?
Oh,
What do we want that example to be that we're setting for them?
oh, that is such a good word. And it's so important. It's so easy to keep scooping up more and more and more too, when truly it's the less and less and less that makes such a
Yeah.
difference. Also too, when we simplify our lives, we actually make space for building the right kind of relationships.
Yeah.
With, even if everything's hunky-dory and you're super healthy and you're having this string of really great days right in a row, filling up our kids' days or even our own days with just an endless list of things that we can say, oh, look, I did this and I did that and I did this. It's just vanity. And I'm talking to myself. I'm totally convicting myself that that budgeting in time to be still is so important. And modeling that for our kids, that you know, you don't need to fill up your day with 47 things that must be done, otherwise you're a failure. You just don't. And so I think it's super important, super powerful. So okay, so coming through, do you have any final things before we wrap it up? We could talk all day about this. It's 4:43. It's like, woo.
So my top two, it comes down to prioritize and get help.
Yeah.
Get help. It's okay. And that can mean get help as in, you know, in the sense we talk about it in our society of get, you know, counseling or something like that. If that's what applies, get
Right.
help, somebody to come in and do work in your house for you, get help from a volunteer or a friend, or just use those online resources that are out there. We're so blessed to be in the time we are.
Yes.
Technology has its problems and its downfalls, but it offers us so many blessings in our time to be
Yes.
able to do things, take care of our families in ways that we couldn't before.
Right. And so just closing thoughts. So you have the Relaxed Homeschool Planning Guide, which will teach people those same things, right? Prioritizing and
So it's going to walk you through the steps to set those priorities.
okay, so that is free. So everybody, you guys make sure that you get that. And then there are 3 it looks like series. So you have No More Overwhelmed Mom. You have a series on chronic illness, which I loved your words, including getting rid of the brain fog buster. I loved that. I need to get rid of my brain fog. That's awesome. And then you have your Exhausted Moms Toolkit. And then there's also an exclusive coupon to get 50% off everything in Heather's store. Heather, don't pay attention for a second. Guys, her store is ridiculously priced. Everything is so reasonable. I couldn't believe it. So she doesn't know that I'm about to tell her to go raise all of her prices because her resources are so great. But I'm telling you, go grab them before I tell her to go raise up her prices because, wow, there's some golden things in there that are achievable for everybody to grab. And then her 50% coupon makes it even more ridiculous, Heather. That's just like awesome in a good way. I love it. And then I have something on pre-sale right now. I'm building, this goes with chronic stuff. It's not done. I'm building a Behold Bible series for kids where you focus on, you do something with nature where you fall in love with something. Waterfalls, water, volcanoes, rocks, bugs, doesn't matter, as I'm writing a whole bunch of them. But once the kids fall in love with them, then there'll be a packet that goes with it that will walk them through discovering about that idea or whatever it is, a faith bite, which will tell them what God's word says or what lessons are in there, things that they can create, and then family challenges that they can do too. And it's only on pre-sale. It's going to be a hefty, it's the oppositely priced thing of Heather stuff. So it's going to be a chunky thing, but it's on pre-sale right now. So you can grab that on pre-sale too. And I think that's it. So Heather, thank you. I know this is such a huge need for moms to know that they can say no, that they can prioritize, that even this is getting help. Just to hear that it's okay to slow down is such a huge thing. Oh, yay. And Jennifer's saying, yay, thank you. It's such a huge thing to have other moms that have gone before us to say, okay, that can go. You really can take your curriculum and set it aside and then pull out the stack of library books and your kids will be fine. It'll be okay. Yeah. You can focus.
It's good for you.
Right. Right. So yay. Okay. So I am going to say thank you and goodbye to you. And I'm just going to wrap up real quick and I'll be right back. So, okay. Oh my gosh. I wish that I had Heather speak these types of things over me in those seasons when life was hard, when my son was in the hospital for a week and then recovering for 3 months, when I tore my elbow or when I had my hysterectomy or when I couldn't walk when I was pregnant and still homeschooling high schoolers. It's like, I wish somebody, actually, I did have people breathe this type of wisdom and what I call gold just over me, where I was learning to let things go. I was blessed to have people come in and do my laundry and take my kids where they needed to go and go grocery shopping and all these things. And I want to encourage you to, it's okay, let things go. Learn to say no, learn to ask for help, accept help, and look for people that you can help. You know, I think it's such a huge thing. So grab the free resources from Heather. They're gold. And I'm not joking about her prices. They're ridiculously low. So go ahead and grab some goodies from Heather. Check out her articles on exhausted mom or chronic illness or this overwhelmed homeschooling mom. We all get there. It's hugely encouraging. And then tune in on Monday. Monday, I have another guest coming where we're going to be talking about how to make learning fun. And I'm super excited. That one's going to be at 4 o'clock on Monday. So other than that, thank you, everybody. This was so great. I am so glad that this was timely. It was timely for me too. We all need the encouragement to slow down, to focus, to simplify, to have an idea journal of things that we can do when we have those good days, and to do them, but not to do too much. So, so important. So thanks everybody. Love you. And we'll see you on Monday with another guest. So talk to you then. Bye.